So we have rich text formatting, we have fantastic voice, we have folders, we have S Pen support. These are all kind of, really completing the package. And our fans, they just all we ask is that they continue enjoying the product, sharing it, and if they really value the hard work that's gone into it, it's making their life easy. Every time we go shopping, and you create your fast notes, you're like, thank God for easy notes. Look at these lists pop up. Buy some milk, buy some sugar, buy some bananas, buy some apple. Boom, boom, boom. In a matter of seconds, you complete what Google Keep couldn't do in minutes.
Hello, everyone. Today we are excited to welcome and be joined by Alexander Madani, CEO and founder of the Google Play application EZ Notes for organizing on modern smartphones and tablet devices. We not only want to learn more about the background of this pioneering innovator and his app, but also learn about his ways of thinking and new products, and what lessons he can teach other inspiring entrepreneurs about establishing a successful business from scratch. Hello, Alexander. Welcome, and we are delighted to have the opportunity to meet the CEO and founder of EZ Notes.
Hello, thank you, Tamara. Great to be with you. Thank you for having me, and hello to our audiences out there. Great to be with you.
So, Alex, can you give us a little background about yourself as far as your career, various technology endeavors, and ultimately how you got into Android engineering?
Yes, thank you. Okay, that's a great question. I guess if I had to look back, I got started, when I was about in my teens, junior high, about 12, 13 years of age. I remember my first computer, official PC, was a Commodore Amiga 500, I think it was. And it was fantastic. It had speakers and a great monitor and a keyboard and all this stuff. And I was just so excited to have that as a youngster. And in junior high, I was kind of getting involved with some of the brainier kids those days. And I had some friends, Nathan and Josh and some of those friends of mine who were good influences on me. They were really into computers. And, it's kind of like one of those cliche kind of stories. And I hate to sound like that, but basically I got involved with the kids. We had the computer club and I kind of learned how to program my first programming language, which was BASIC. And then I just myself, early on, just spending hours and hours writing games, a screensaver, like a fireworks screensaver that was all in BASIC. And, I kind of, just kind of found that I had a bit of a knack for that stuff and enjoyed it. So, that was kind of my early career. And then in junior high, I wasn't, as serious about this stuff. But, by the time I was in college, I guess I would say I was thinking about maybe trying to get into computers more seriously. Of course, all my teachers were, it's impossible, you're not advanced enough in mathematics. And it's just a dream, for someone like you. The kids that are going into computer science programs are much more advanced, blah, 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 And, I don't like to sound flippant, but by any means, but I think sometimes encouragement and confidence building in others is very important, And I didn't really have a whole lot of that, unfortunately. So I was very self-motivated from an early age and wanted to kind of prove that they can't box me and say, this is what you can do and this is what you cannot do. So I applied myself. I had good grades in high school, and I ended up getting accepted to a very good university in California, and it was a process, but eventually I ended up getting my bachelor's in computer science. And right after graduating, I started working and being in the industry, IT, publications. I was a writer. I wrote books and stuff for IBM type products, mainframe products. I documented technical stuff, and Then I kind of got into web development, you know, using something called, in those days, Adobe Flash. I'm sure you remember the scary days of Adobe Flash. And I spent 6-7 years really mastering that. And I had some incredibly, dare I say, high-end Flash products for the web that, you know, Fortune 500 companies and customers were, you know, basically viewing to learn the products and our technologies and so forth. So, you know, I did that for that kind of stuff for a number of years. I'm still very much involved in IT. You know, I'm kind of a laptop and technology hardware fanatic. I love anything to do with Windows, even though I'm quite clumsy with Windows, as you saw with our early connection issues today. But yes, so after some of the other work slowed down, I think it was around 2007, if I'm not mistaken, when Mr. Steve Jobs, the Honorable Steve Jobs, CEO of Apple, came out with the first, I don't want to say the first smartphone, because that would technically be inaccurate. I think IBM had like a Simon smartphone or something like that came out in the 1990s, if I'm not mistaken, which was not a huge commercial success, but it was nevertheless one of the early smartphones. But you know, the iPhone was kind of like the first one, the first smartphone, you know, that had like an operating system, it had like a browser, and you had like this concept of apps, and it was just, you know, just really cool stuff. And I was quite mesmerized by Steve, Mr. Jobs, that is, and kind of started thinking about, wow, you know, this is a whole new kind of season and chapter, I guess, in life. And maybe I can learn how, you know, this kind of technology works. And so I think it was by around 2013, if I remember correctly, that I started to, 2012 probably actually, that I started to train myself in Java programming at a ripe old age of, I don't know how old I was in those days, 36, maybe 37. In my college, we didn't have Java. So these technologies did not exist. And so I had to kind of, how can I say, try to get some energy behind it and excite myself and motivate myself yet again, as you know, the drudgery of life, to move on, right, to whatever the next thing is going to be. And it just so happened in those days was the apps and the app world. And so, yeah, I just wanted to make an impact, and I started to, like I said, train pretty extensively, heavily, taking online courses in Java and XML, and taking some courses on lynda.com, which, you know, lynda.com, for our dear viewers, was a very prominent and popular platform for learning anything you wanted about technology. And I think they got merged or purchased by, if I'm not mistaken, LinkedIn, if I'm not mistaken. So now LinkedIn owns that company, lynda.com. So LinkedIn Learning is now the thing, and you can sign up and, you know, subscribe and learn about whatever technologies one is interested in. So yeah, that's kind of, I got my first kind of experiences with basic Java, intermediate Java, advanced Java. I got into Java Beans, so I wrote my first, you know, web applications, and that was really complicated stuff. I wasn't too crazy about it. Writing web apps is a very difficult process, and the technologies and infrastructure behind it is not very mature. But it was good that I pushed myself in those areas and learned a little bit about Java. And then eventually I realized Android was probably the area I want to focus in, because I owned, by that time, a Samsung Galaxy Note device, which in hindsight, I dare say was one of the best smartphones I owned. I really loved the stylus. I really just loved the sleek design. And
Alexander, can you tell us a little bit how you came up with the idea for such a brilliant and successful organizer, and what your general thinking approach, when you think about your big projects like inventing a software product or other technology or IT endeavors that you enjoy doing in life?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked that. How did I come up with it? Well, it's a confluence of many complicated things, I would dare say. I mean, it's. I think if I were to look back and 8 years ago and ask myself, my 36-year-old self, I'm almost 50 now, so a few years, back, going back a few years, so I'm 50 now. But I just basically my whole thing was I was doing a lot of experimentation using apps like all of us. I was using other note-taking apps. By 2013, I believe it was March, if I'm not mistaken, Google Keep came out. And so I began using that, and I was using that to take notes, and it was, I was fairly impressed with it. But the irony of it all, I suppose, in hindsight, if I had to say, was that sometimes other people in my family would require me to, you know, run some errands or something, and I'd want to catch a few quick notes, I guess, by voice. And I would just kind of hold these devices in my hand, and I'd find myself just pecking like a bird, just pecking and pecking on the screen just to create a simple note. And it was not only frustrating, and of course, sometimes, people who want you to be getting things done right away, right? They want you to get up and go take care of things. And I couldn't do that. Just found myself, like I said, just holding the phone and just literally just pecking and spending minutes on ends just to create a list or a few notes. And I thought to myself, this is insanity. I mean, the whole point of a mobile phone, we call it a mobile device, is to keep us mobile, right? And to help speed us up, help facilitate and keep us mobile and all those things, make life easy. And here I was, just sitting there, spending all this time, and all of a sudden I just kind of had this, one day I had this eureka moment. Well, wouldn't it be great if my transcriber, my smartphone, could record voice in such a way that I don't have to do anything extra. I can just speak and I'm done. And it just takes my thought, I'm good to go. Wouldn't that be brilliant? And, but of course I had no idea how to even approach such a thing. And that complication or challenge ended up being about a 9-month to a year process of experimental labor, working with the Google APIs, speech recognition APIs, which are these low-level calls, function calls you make to the recorder and the microphone functionalities of Android. And then you have it return back the results to you, and then you're supposed to take the return results of that text and process that into an adapter and all this really, really abstract, insane stuff that ordinary people, I don't think, want to think about too much. But anyways, after a lot of tinkering for about 1 year, I finally had a breakthrough where I realized that I might have the germs for something totally disruptive and different. And at least I thought so. Maybe I was deluded and kind of living in my own insanity in a way. But anyways, so once that occurred, after all that work, after a year, just on that particular aspect of the product, I had my first response to Google Keep. I guess it would have been May of 2014. So just over a year, if I'm not mistaken. So they came out in March of 2013. My response was in May of 2014. Just to be clear, by the way, to our dear audiences, I want to make it very clear that I'm by no means sitting here trying to, encourage people to bash on other products or compare. This is not what I'm about. I think technology is all about options, and people, should be free to decide what they want out of their investment and their product. So Easy Notes doesn't eliminates all of that because it's, Easy Notes was coded. We were talking millions of lines of code from scratch, from ground zero. I built this product from scratch. And these were some of the many things I wanted to address for people. I wanted to make an easier note-taking experience. I wanted people to feel like a refreshing, kind of a pleasurable environment where they're learning the art of note-taking even. Just basic, simple stuff. Clean, practical, fast, expedient, and on and on. And then, for some of us like myself and perhaps many other people who don't appreciate, their privacy being infringed upon, things like your microphone, your camera, your contacts, your GPS location. If you were to go to YouTube and do a quick search on Congress grills Google CEO on bias and data collection, that's an interesting little thing for people to kind of watch. And multiple different congressmen, conservative Americans, are just, have been outraged and just shocked by the amount of information these people are collecting through Gmail, through their apps, of course, as I say, these dangerous permissions. I really felt like, look, if I'm going to make an impact, and this is going to be hopefully big project, and hopefully a project that I can survive long enough to maintain and keep it going. And mind you, 80 to 95% of independent app developers generally abandon their products after the first year. So I've managed to be alive on Google for 8 years. I hope that says something about me as a person, and hopefully says something about us as a community and our efforts to help liberate more people and free them of this garbage that's out there. That's really, on many, it's kind of, it's making my life worse. So, but now with Easy, the beauty of it, you just talk and you're done. You tap the microphone. You don't even have to be looking on the screen. You talk, you're done. And your thoughts are taken, multiple sentences. So in that regards, that just need to get their job done quickly, safely, and efficiently, would they prefer something like Easy Notes? Just a lot of experience, research, reading reviews. I was doing a lot of reading of people's reviews of Google Keep and other apps, and I was reading their frustrations, reading about their privacy concerns. What's your next question?
Can you tell us a little bit about your logo and branding? Because the logo of Easy Notes is quite unique and different and uses kind of a Twitter-like design of a birdie.
Perfect. Yes, exactly. You're absolutely correct. And it is very much inspired by Twitter. And I'll tell you the story behind it. The first thing is I wanted something that was different. I got a lot of criticism and flack, if I dare say, initially, when I came up with this design. Everybody was like, oh, how is this a note-taking app if you've got the picture of a bird with a voice or musical things coming out of its beak? Everybody else is using paper and pen and paper and all this stuff. And I don't know, there was just a part of me that wanted to stick to my own kind of brand and my own identity. I didn't want to follow what everybody else was doing, because how is that innovation? That's true with the product in general as a whole, if I dare say. If you're always doing what everybody else is doing, exactly the same, nothing really that new, you look at the movie industry, the best movies in the world have been the ones that have been unorthodox to some extent, right? You remember, for example, Pulp Fiction with its dance scenes and John Travolta, right? And those amazing movies that have those. So my point is, whatever we do, there is a certain, or orthodoxy and establishment that we want to adhere to. But sometimes you find if you want to be a little bit unique, a little bit different, make a different statement, and you're within bounds, of course, it's okay. And so the birdie, basically, the design of this logo came about, I suppose, because of a number of reasons. One is it's a voice-based application, so you see the musical notes coming out of the bird's beak. The other is that the birdie is a little baby tiny little thing, and I kind of wanted to capture this notion that we're a slim, small application, right? This is a big plus for a lot of people. They buy these brand new phones, you know, and we have all these apps that we're going to install, and more every year, and it's more things we have to download and install. And why waste storage, and why install an app that's going to hoard your device and make you go back to Google to buy your next phone from again, right? Because you're using Google Keep or something. So, you know, the baby aspect of the logo also kind of captures that essence, but also more importantly, in a way, in a subtle sort of way, I was kind of thinking, okay, look, Facebook versus Twitter, right? Facebook is a giant platform, multimedia platform, and they have their messenger apps and the online stuff and everything. Twitter is not nearly that sophisticated as Facebook, right? It's mostly just quick little chit chats here and there. It doesn't have the same reminders and the same complexities and all that. You know, the groups and communities you can create and so on and so forth. But it's incredibly effective. So Twitter has been definitely an inspiration for me with this logo. I kind of wanted to capture this notion that we're not trying to be like, you know, somehow like Google Keep or Evernote with these big apps. I mean, it's not even realistic to want to be that. They are giant companies with, you know, untold amounts of manpower and developers supposedly. I don't know, I'm guessing. And I'm just one person. But if I can do one or a couple of things very well in this application, and people are happy with that, that I suppose could be enough to be successful. And there's some older people than myself, wiser developers, you know, friends in the family and so forth, always also kind of assured me that a product to become kind of like, say, a household brand name doesn't have to be terribly sophisticated. It just has to do what it does really super well. We don't sort of teach our children and it's not imbued in our culture that how much collaboration, camaraderie, planning, and hard work goes to that finished, so-called finished. Of course, the product is never completely finished, but you know, to that finished package, whatever it is that you know, anyways, again, I don't want to sound too cliche and silly to my audiences here. I'm trying to keep it as light and fluid as possible, but it's you develop tunnel vision sometimes after being so focused in code and all these things. It's like I was, you know, for the first 5 years, at least 5 years, I was pulling 100-hour weeks easily. Just so people out there know, this is not some, you know, little HTML web page that you put up in 15 minutes or a little article you write, you know, kind of a project. 16 hours a day, 100-hour weeks or more. There were times I would go to sleep and I was thinking about something I wanted to fix or solve, and it wasn't coming to me in my consciousness at the time I was awake. I'd fall asleep, and then overnight, by the next day, I had the solution. So it was even in my subconscious, this product, even in my dreams. And one particular feature I will share with the audience that this was really the case was the marking of the priority of notes, so that you can mark as important or urgent or this and that. I did everything to figure out how people were doing that, and it's complicated. And finally, the solution, I came up and invented my own solution for that. So sometimes, you know, when you're doing things, you're creating a presentation, you're going to music, you have a band, you're writing, you know, maybe you're making a song, you're singing. We improvise. And on the spot, something happens, a new note comes out. Sounds even better than what you had planned, right? Mm-hmm. Or you're singing, and maybe just your intonation and the way you sang that particular phrase or word or whatever is a little bit different. But then you kind of look back at that and go, that actually sounded that was actually cool, pretty cool. That was like, I couldn't have even rehearsed it that perfectly, right? So yeah, everybody loves what they do, and in that regards, I think as long as you're passionate about what you do, people can tell. Is this a genuine leader, somebody who's put in the time and worked the trenches, so to speak? What kind of stories he has been through, pain points, all the pain points we've had. I've, like I said, come to the brink of abandoning this product and throwing my hands up in the air like some Renaissance artist who's given up on chiseling his statue for too long. Maybe a Michelangelo, maybe it was a bad analogy, right? You're sitting there on the Sistine Chapel, right, in the church, and you're drawing these things and your back breaks and you fall down from the scaffolding and you crack your back. Do you want to go back to work tomorrow after that? Not really, right? Or you've just chiseled the statue of David, a bronze marble statue with a little chisel and a hammer, for years. And then Leonardo da Vinci comes along and he makes some kind of remark about your statue and it hurts your feelings. Do you want to, everybody has had these kinds of things. I remember with Easy Notes, oh, it's impossible, Alex. You're never going to have a single customer, they told me. Who's going to pay anything for your app? And it was painful. It was very, very painful, heart-wrenching for me to see that, to hear that, because I really believed in the value of ultimate mobility and helping people make their lives easier. And I didn't want to believe that, and I didn't. So in my state of madness, if I can use those words, I was in a state of madness and euphoria, and I was a blind man. Is really the best way I could, looking back in those days. And I'm glad I was. I'm glad I was in a state of insanity. And that's one of my messages to everybody out there is don't let other people tell you, oh, this is silly, or look at this person and at their age and look at what they're doing or how they're acting or how they're dressed or whatever. Try not to do that. I grew up in that kind of a vibe and very conservative upbringing, and my whole life I was always listening to other people and their expectations of me, and am I doing the right thing or the wrong? At the end of the day, what you're doing now, right? What you're doing now is the perfect time, because 5 years from now you're a different person. 10 years from now you're a different person. You're in a different season and chapter of your life, and you're not going to have the same thought processes and nerve and same focus and concentration and priorities. Maybe you have children, maybe you have many other things going on in life, and you so seize kind of this whole carpe diem, seize the moment and spirit was really the key behind a lot of this, a lot of my product and on your mobile. I don't care if you get a kick out of hearing your own voice recorded. Maybe people do. Not my fans. They have read aloud if some, I just got contacted by a gentleman from Hatem from Egypt. He was a professor from Egypt, and he thanked me for my application. And he said it has changed his life. He's a blind man. He cannot see. And the read aloud features and the combination of single tapping and the voice, instant voice stuff, he says has transformed his life. Now, I hear stories like that sometimes, right? So who are we catering towards now is kind of what I want to move on to next, if I may. Somebody, I think, once said, a product that is sensible and practical will help a lot of people. And I really do believe that. Like our own Easy Notes customers, they range from students, junior high school level students in school, college. We've got, of course, our dear busy moms running about, catching their Easy Notes and driving the soccer moms and the kids and going to church or this or that or shopping, whatever the case may be. And then we've got the professionals, we've got nurses. I have a nurse from Hawaii who has praised me and supported me. And I know we have people, in those kinds of settings. And we have some older people in Germany diary note takers and organizers, and really just a whole broad spectrum, because the app, it works. It does its job, and it does it quite well. The editor is fantastic. And if I dare say, you know, if a person ever wants to come up with a product that is in some way unique, it has to have certain moats, as I call them. A moat, like, is a unique distinguishing characteristic advantage that a company or a business or a service has. If you can, in whatever you're doing, you know, if you're a Picasso and you're painting something, or if you're a potter, you're making something with your hands, whatever it is you do, if you can think of some way to make that very unique, give it a moat, that will really set it apart and give it much better chances of survival. So with Easy Notes, as I mentioned, the voice record is amazing, I think. Our editor, the rich text editor, is fantastic, you know, because while we don't store large audio clip files and hoard people's storage, they can bring their notes to life with color and formatting and fonts and unbelievable stuff. That took me 8-9 months. Just that one feature took me 8-9 months to finally get right. And right there, that's the value proposition, is, do you want your note-taking app to save you time and save you hassle and keep you safe and respect your privacy? That's a little bit about our heritage and where we come from. And like I said, custom app designed for privacy, designed for an exclusive, faster, premium experience, and a much slimmer and more efficient on-device resources.
Thank you. Thank you for this interview.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be with you, and I hope to see the finished results so we can get things out there to the web and people can learn a little bit more about our services. Thank you.
Yes. Bye.
Talk to you soon.